Discover 8 spine-chilling encounters in haunted Appalachian houses. Terrifying secrets exposed. The wind howled through the desolate hollows of Appalachia like the cries of lost souls, and the worn-out house, sagging and neglected, stood witness to 1,000 secrets buried deep within its rotten walls. Inside, the McKinley family hoped to find refuge, but their dreams quickly twisted into a waking nightmare. Ella stood in the dilapidated living room, shadows flitting across creaking floorboards. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a place where hope could bloom after Jake lost his job. But already, unsettling vibes crackled in the air. "Do you hear that, Jake?" she whispered, her heart racing as the chill crawled up her spine. Jake shook his head, mind focused on lightening the mood. "Must be the wind, hon." They dismissed it, though the whispers lingered. But the eerie feeling only thickened when Ella discovered an old newspaper buried in the attic dirt. Local children disappear without a trace. Her stomach twisted. They were in the center of it. This house was a dark chapter of a town steeped in horror. Days slid by, yet unease clung to her. She brushed it off, focusing on converting this crumbling shell into a home. Yet every night was punctuated by faint knocks, as if something unseen was seeking entry, begging to be heard. As Jake took late-night trips for work, she shivered alone, clutching Lily tightly to her chest. "Everything will be all right, sweet pea," she reassured the little girl, but doubt gnawed at her heart. Then Lily, once full of enthusiasm, grew strangely quiet. A local neighbor named Ethan began visiting frequently, his smile too sharp, his presence too invasive. One evening, Ella watched as Lily laughed and played with Ethan, her laughter sounding vibratingly hollow against the house's carved wood walls. The sweet girl seemed enchanted, while Ella felt an icy weight in her gut. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Ella's stomach churned as she faced Jake. "I don't trust him, Jake. He spends too much time with Lily." Her voice trembled, panic flaring in her chest. Yet Jake waved her concerns away, convinced that Ethan only sought friendship. When Ella discovered a photograph depicting the previous family, their eyes dull with fear, she staggered back from the dusty surface. As twilight enveloped the house, a strange urge gnawed at her. Everything would be fine, right? But in the dim light, she heard whispers that grew louder, echoing long-forgotten tragedies. "Mom!" Lily's voice cut through the haze of fear. Ella pivoted towards the sound, finding her daughter locking eyes with Ethan, who stood at the edge of the property, shadows draping him like a cloak. Suddenly, she was gripped by an unshakable dread. A cold shiver cascaded down her spine, a profound realization dawning upon her. The hollow silence thickening around them was concealing something. They were not alone. This house held dark truths, and as she backed away, she felt the walls pulse, a warning that something sinister was awakening. Would they unearth the darkness before it consumed them? Or had they already sealed their fate, trapped in a cycle of despair and unrelenting terror? Lily's laughter abruptly faded, a haunting echo that left a void in the chilly air. Ella's heart thudded painfully as she stepped closer to her daughter, instinctively pulling her protectively by the arm. "Lily, sweetheart, come here." Panic skipped in her voice, a raw edge slicing through the heavy silence. "Why?" Lily flared, her innocence matching curiosity as she darted her gaze from Ethan to Ella, oblivious to the whirlpool of dread building in her mother's chest. "Ethan was just showing me this cool rock he found." Cool rock? The phrase pulsed ominously in Ella's mind like a warning siren. She cast a wary eye towards Ethan. "It's late. We need to go inside." Ethan's lips curled into a smile that sent primal chills racing across her skin. "I'll show her the other rocks tomorrow," he cooed, each word dripping with malice disguised as friendliness. "No. Now! Ella shouted, her voice shocking even herself. Jake rounded the corner, assessing the tension in the air. "What's the fuss, Ella?" "It's him. I don't want Lily around him." She wasn't sure if her voice carried panic or desperation, but was aware of other forms of silence surrounding them, conversations buried beneath fear. Jake placed a calming hand on her shoulder, his brow furrowed. "You're being paranoid. He's just a neighbor. We've seen him here before, right? He's harmless." Harmless? The word tasted bitter. Someone who lived in this house, enveloped in layers of dark histories, had no business brushing off anything as harmless. "Please, Jake, listen to me, there's something wrong." But as Jake turned his back, shaking his head, the whispering walls of the house seemed to respond, their low buzzing growing louder, snaking into Ella's ear. "Lily." It swirled around her, encircling her, and suddenly, she felt dizzy. Without thinking, she turned to Ethan, her resolve wavering. "How did you find this place?" "The house likes me," he said, dark amusement flashing across his face. "What do you mean?" "Some places, they just call to you, you know? Like old friends." The straight lines of his smile twisted her stomach into knots. Up until that moment, she thought she could protect Lily, but a struggle unfolded deep within her, clawing between the weight of foreboding and the innocence of a child. Jake waved goodbye to Ethan, blissfully ignorant as he led Lily back inside. The wooden door creaked like it carried the memories of past horrors. Every fiber of Ella's being rallied against the night, the swirling shadows closing in. Then she heard it again, faint knocking, uneven like a heartbeat. From inside the walls. Her breath caught. "What's happening in there?" With a pounding heart, Ella pushed open the door, every creak igniting her fears. The house felt alive, breathing against her skin, every shadow alive with watchful eyes. Scratches danced along the walls, whispering secrets in her ears, dark, blood-curdling secrets that begged to be unearthed. "Mommy!" Lily's terrified scream slashed through the thick air, pulling Ella's focus. She rushed down the hallway, feet pounding as panic clawed at her throat. The creature lurking in their new home awoke, its weight pulling her deeper into dread. "Lily!" She burst into the room, eyes wide, searching. The bed was empty. Chilled, she spun around, crouching to peer under the furniture. Then a sharp gasp, dark shapes congregated in the corners, swelling toward her like shadows coming to life. "Mommy, help!" Her heart raced as Lily's voice pleaded from the heavy darkness, pulling her farther in. But as Ella reached for the light, uncertainty loomed closer. Shadows swept around her, clinging, and she gasped. Where had Lily gone? The walls rattled, echoing with secrets. What was the house hiding now? The air thickened as she took a step forward. Would she find her daughter, or unleash a horror that consumed them all? Ella stumbled back, the chilling sensation wrapping around her like a suffocating cloak. "Lily!" She cried again, her voice cracking, torn between fear and hope. Dread gnawed at her insides, propelling her through the suffocating darkness. She fumbled for the light switch, her fingers trembling, and flipped it on. The narrow beam cut through the pitch-black room, illuminating the corners that had seemed alive only moments ago. Empty. The shadows recoiled as if stung, retreating into the folds of the walls. "Lily!" The name echoed, desperation swirling in the air. Panic clawed at her throat like nails scraping down a blackboard. "Mommy!" The voice was a whisper, faint and distant, almost as if it were caught in the thick walls of the house. Ella's heart lurched, recognizing the fear embedded within the tone. "Where are you?" she shouted, hoping to pierce through the encroaching gloom. "Mommy, please, help me." The urgency electrified the air, shuddering through Ella's bones. She raced toward the sound, her thoughts spiraling into dark possibilities. Each step echoed like a drumbeat of despair, the floorboards creaking underfoot as if warning her to turn back. Ella rampaged through the house, each door flung open revealing rooms draped in darkness, their corners cloaked in shadows as they bore witness to her escalating dread. Clothes hung lifelessly from hooks, a forgotten past whispering of the families that once thrived here. A shiver cascaded down her spine as the air turned icy. The house wasn't just old, it was cruel. "Mommy! Help me!" The voice seemed to come from the attic, that foreboding place at the top of the stairs where darkness lingered longer than in the rest of the house. Ella's heart raced and the swirling weight of apprehension pressed against her. Taking a shaky breath, she ascended the stairs, each creak amplifying her heartbeat, stretching time to a taut wire ready to snap. At the attic door, heavy wood and rusty hinges protested as she pushed it open. Dust motes floated in the beam of her flashlight, but the attic was empty. "Lily!" The cry was raw, igniting a desperate fervor to push back the dread. As her voice faded, she heard it a rustling, like the sound of small stones skittering across the wood floor. Then, silence. "Mommy!" It seeped through the air, colder than before, pulling her deeper into the shadows. Fighting against the urge to flee, Ella stepped further in, every nerve ending tingling. The air thickened, weighing down her lungs as she approached the source of the sound. An old trunk sat in the corner, aged wood and pulled apart seams suggesting it held long-buried secrets. Ella knelt before it, fingers brushing against the grain. "Please, let her be in here," she whispered, where light struggled to penetrate. She lifted the lid, hinges creaking like the size of the house. Inside, nothing. Just rotting fabric and cobwebs draping layers of wasted memory. Empty. Then the door slammed shut behind her. Ella jumped, heart ricocheting like a pinball. She spun around, panic gripping her. The darkness thickened, and in the dismal corners of the attic, shadows began to pulse with a sickly energy. "Mommy!" The scream resonated once more, this time echoing across the attic walls, a cacophony of terror that threatened to swallow her whole. In the depths of her unraveling mind, Ella realized, whatever had taken her daughter was more than a mere presence, it was the house itself, hungry and dark. The walls shifted, trembling, as if they were alive, ready to devour anyone who dared challenge them. As despair clawed its way up her throat, Ella heard soft giggles, sickening and jubilant, a cruel mockery of Lily's voice. It laughed, alive in its malevolence. With a newfound determination, Ella shouted into the encroaching darkness, "I will find her." Step by step, she resolved to march forward into the void, aware that tomorrow's light might come too late, and that the true horror lay deeper than she could possibly imagine. What had the house been hiding all along? What other horrors lurked in the depths waiting for her to uncover them? The attic's air thickened, pressing in on her, and Ella's breath came in quick gasps. Shadows coiled around her feet, whispering threats in languages of despair. The giggles danced through her like shards of glass, cutting into her sanity. "Lily!" She screamed again, urgency fueling her desperation, but the laughter continued, tauntingly sweet, like a child's plaything turned into a cruel game. She stumbled, navigating the cramped space, flashlight beam flickering as if it too was afraid of what lay in the dark. Behind her, the trunk loomed, a gaping maw ready to swallow her whole. Then, there was again the faint sound of her daughter's voice, this time layered beneath something darker. "Mommy, help me!" The chilling echo sent a tremor through Ella. She shook her head, fighting against the increasing weight of despair. Nothing about this seemed real. The attic, the voice, perhaps they were figments of her twisted imagination. Yet, the palpable warmth of her daughter's essence still tethered her to hope. Ella edged towards the corner where the sound had originated, her heartbeat echoing loudly in her ears. The valuable light illuminated a cracked mirror perched precariously against the wall, its surface marred with soot. She felt an involuntary pull, a deep yearning, to look into it. As she stepped closer, the glass shimmered, a fleeting image flickered across its surface. Lily's tiny face smiled back at her, bright and innocent, before being swallowed by darkness again. Ella reached out, heart racing, desperate to touch the reflection. Suddenly, it rippled like water, distorting her image, and Ella gasped. It wasn't just a reflection. She saw the attic again, but this time, it was different. The corners brimmed with movement, shadows cavorting, and a thick fog hung low, obscuring something sinister lurking within. No! Ella yanked her hand back, horror flooding her veins. The laughter grew louder, echoing around her, the attic itself vibrating as if it were alive and mocking her pain. The walls began to pulsate, damp eyes forming in the age-old wood, peering at her with malicious curiosity. Fear surged through her, seeping into her bones. She spun around, desperate for an escape, but the way she had come was plunged into darkness, now a thick veil blocking her exit. "Mommy!" The cry was more urgent, more desperate, and Ella's heart twisted painfully. It was too close. Refusing to succumb to hopelessness, Ella clenched her fists, determined to confront whatever horror was in the depths of this cursed house. She could feel the atmosphere shifting, like a predator preparing to strike. Whatever lay behind her was hungry. In that moment, clarity pierced through the chaos. A revelation struck her. She had to claim this space, reclaim it from the darkness that wanted to consume both her and her daughter. "You will not take her!" she roared, her voice a tremor of defiance against the swirling shadows. Compelled by strength born out of desperation, she moved toward the mirror again, seeking its secrets, the reflection still flickering with her daughter's image. "Tell me where she is." Ella's voice was a mix of fury and pleading. A gust of wind howled through the attic as everything went still. The laughter faded, replaced by a low, unsettling whisper seeping from the depths of the mirror. "To find her, you must let go." Ella felt the echo of those words, chilling her to the marrow. Let go? What did it mean? Before she could grasp the meaning, the attic began to shake violently, walls cracking under pressure, shadows stretching and twisting as if trying to reach for her. In the chaotic moment, she saw at the door. It was ajar, a slice of light cutting through the endless dark. But how could she trust it? Would it lead to freedom or deeper into the nightmare? Ella had a choice to make. Stay and face the terrors that awaited, or dart toward the unknown, risking everything to save Lily. Her heart pounded, every instinct screaming for her to run towards that door. With a single, breathless moment, she bolted forward, the shadows clawing at her heels as she raced toward the light. Would she find Lily waiting on the other side, or a terrifying truth that would seal her fate? The door stood like a sentinel, the thin sliver of light beckoning her with a sweet promise of hope. Ella charged forward, desperation clawing at her throat. The shadows writhed, lashing out as she darted through, their whispers igniting dread in her core. As she burst through, the light enveloped her, momentarily blinding. She stumbled, the floor beneath her suddenly solid, smooth. Ella gasped, blinking furiously to adjust. The attic faded behind her, a suffocating memory slipping away. But where was she? She stood in a dimly lit hallway that stretched infinitely, the air heavy with the scent of mildew and old wood. The walls were lined with photographs, faces she didn't recognize. They stared back at her, eyes hollow, as if holding secrets of unspeakable sorrow. Lily. Her voice was swallowed by the silence. Panic surged, urging her into motion. She walked carefully, each step echoing like thunder in her ears. A door at the far end of the hall caught her attention. It was slightly ajar, a flickering light spilling from within. She could hear it again, the faint sound of her daughter's voice. "Mommy, please." With renewed vigor, Ella hurried toward the door, heart pounding. But as she reached for the knob, a creaking sound stopped her cold. A figure emerged from the shadows behind her, lingering just out of light's reach. Ella, the voice slithered through the hall, serpentine and soft, wrapping itself around her. It was familiar, yet twisted. Her breath hitched. "You shouldn't be here." She turned slowly, terror seeping into her bones. It was the reflection from the mirror, distorted, yet undeniably her. The eerie copy wore a crooked smile, eyes gleaming with malice. Why seek her? You didn't protect her before. Shut up. Ella screamed, clenching her fists. She couldn't listen to this thing. It was feeding on her fear, trying to unravel her resolve. I will find Lily. The apparition tilted its head, amusement painted across its ghastly features. Find her? You must understand the truth will cost you dearly. Ignoring the reflection, she grasped the door handle, twisting it violently. The door swung open, revealing a stunning light that contrasted the darkness she'd come from. But the light felt wrong, too bright and blinding. It pulsed rhythmically as though it had a heartbeat of its own. Inside, the room rippled with colors that shifted and morphed, each hue more vibrant than the last. It felt alive, throbbing with some unseen energy. In the center stood a pedestal, and on it lay a small, locked box, as ancient and worn as the house itself. Lily? She called again, voice trembling, feeling that motherly instinct surge within. Nothing answered but the echo of her voice. Choose wisely, the sinister twin whispered from behind her. Open the box, and lose everything you hold dear, or forever remain in the shadows. Ella stepped back, heart racing. She could feel the weight of decisions pressing upon her. What was inside? A ticket to her daughter's freedom? Or an irreversible curse waiting to be unleashed? Just as she turned to confront the reflection, the shadows coiling around her tightened their grip, suffocating her, drawing her into their dark embrace. She was trapped. Wrestling against despair, Ella's mind raced. Could she trust the promise of the light across the threshold? Or dare to face the secrets held within the box? As she braced herself, a loud crack resonated through the hall, reverberating painfully against her eardrums. With the echo came a shift, a breeze swirling around her. It smelled of something familiar, something lost. Could it be? In that moment, a memory flickered, and with it, a name. Lily. She gasped, fear mingling with hope, heart pounding ever louder. Now, with shadows lurking ever closer, the choice remained. Reach for the box, or flee to that blinding light promising escape. Would she trap herself forever in darkness, or uncover the terrifying truth waiting on the other side? Ella's heart raced as she stood at the brink of a monumental choice. The locked box beckoned her, its presence both threatening and alluring. She clenched her fists, fighting the urge to recoil from the shadows gathering like storm clouds around her. The whirling light and its pulsating rhythm seemed to resonate within her very bones, but the box, that small dark secret, whispered deeper mysteries she was desperate to unveil. She hesitated, already feeling the chill of the shadows wrap tighter. "Mommy, please." Lily's voice cut through the tension, fragile yet vibrant, urging her on. Her resolve hardened. It was either the dark secret or the blinding light, and she had to know what lay within. With a deep breath, she swiveled back to the pedestal. The box seemed to pulse in time with the blinding light, sending shivers down her spine. She reached for it, fingers trembling. "Open it," the sinister twin murmured, almost sweetly. "Don't you want to know the truth?" Her heart thudded painfully. Whatever was in that box, she needed to prepare herself. Even as shadows nipped at her heels, she turned the key hidden in her mind, unlocking ghostly memories waiting to pour forth. Ella drew closer, eyes locked on the box. The pattern swirling on its surface held an eeriness that felt alive, alluring her in an almost hypnotic dance. "What's inside?" she whispered, almost pleadingly. She lifted the lid, the old hinges creaking in protest. As it opened, a cold wind swept through the room, chilling her to the marrow. Inside lay a small mirror, cracked and clouded, reflecting only snippets of her current reality. Suddenly, images cascaded before her eyes, snippets of laughter, moments with Lily, lost times when they were whole. Then, the playful glances turned dark, flashes of screaming, the flicker of flames, and darkness consuming everything. "Lily!" She screamed, but the image faded, replaced by laughter that echoed mockingly through the air. "No! Ella slammed the box shut, breathless, but the shadows had grown bolder. They lunged at her, clawing and slashing. Panic seized her chest, the walls squeezed tighter, suffocating her resolve. "Run!" a voice urged, desperate and sharp. She didn't know if it was her own or perhaps something deeper. Instinct kicked in, and she bolted toward the blinding light. But the closer she got, the more the light dimmed, turning grotesque and flickering with malice. Was it a trap? Unaided by any concrete thought, she flung herself toward the door, exploding into the corridor once more, feeling breathless. The hallway twisted, receding like a dark serpent, pulling itself further away from her grasp. Photos on the walls contorted, faces morphing into distorted cries, echoes of the past, capturing her fear. In that madness, she spotted another door on her left, barely visible in the flickering shadows. With no time to think, she darted toward it, wrenching the knob open. The door swung wide, revealing a spiral staircase plunging down into the abyss below. The air was thick with must and despair, yet it also carried the faintest hint of familiarity, like whispers of hope washed in desperation. "Lily?" she called out, hoping her voice could reach her daughter in whatever ethereal place the shadows occupied. Then came a response, weaker this time, yet definite. "Mommy." Her heart soared, fighting against the growing dread. Without wasting another moment, she began her descent, each step feeling like the last tether to reality fraying. The staircase spiraled into darkness, with the shadows swirling above, angry tendrils reaching down, trying to pull her back into the void. Desperation clawed at her throat. "I'm coming!" she cried out, her voice trembling, resonating through the hollow walls. Just as she reached the bottom, a loud crash echoed behind her, the door slamming shut, locking the past away. As she stepped into a small, dimly lit cellar, the air felt charged, thickening with an energy that hummed against her skin. A flicker of movement drew her gaze to the far end of the room. Something stirred in the shadows, and she knew she was not alone. But who was there? Was it Lily? Or some darkness lying in wait to devour her? In that moment, a chill swept through her once more as a hand reached from the shadows, trembling, whispering her name softly. Ella. Instincts flared again. Was this the answer she sought, or the culmination of her darkest fears? The truth was so close, but at what cost? Ella's breath hitched as she stared at the trembling hand, shrouded in shadow. It seemed familiar yet foreign, coated with something cold and unsettling. Instinct screamed at her to retreat, but she couldn't. "Not now." "Is it really you?" Panic laced her words. She took a cautious step forward, the cellar floor creaking beneath her feet, as if the very wood was protesting her approach. Shadows danced around the edges of her vision, twisting and contorting into shapes that didn't belong. "Mommy." The voice was soft, fragile like porcelain. A chill enveloped her as she stepped closer, compelled by a myriad of emotions. Was this hope? Or a cruel trick played by whatever darkness lurked in the corners? "Lily?" Her voice cracked, wavering on the edge of despair. She reached out, the air thick with an almost suffocating tension. Suddenly, the hand retreated and the shadow shifted. Ella felt a wave of nausea wash over her as the figure stepped fully into the faint light of the cellar. It was a child, but not Lily. Cold, hollow eyes stared back at her, a mirror of her own fear-fueled nightmares. The girl's hair was matted, and dirt smudged her pale face. "What? Who are you?" Ella whispered, the pit in her stomach deepening with dread. "Does it matter?" The girl replied, voice echoing off the cellar walls. "You're not supposed to be here." "Where's my daughter?" Ella's heart thundered in her chest, desperation clawing at her throat. The girl's laughter pierced the stillness like broken glass. "Your daughter is safe. For now." Ella's mind raced. Safe? What did that even mean? Panic turned to anger. "What do you want from me?" "Everything," the girl answered, and her eyes flickered for a moment, revealing a depth of darkness that sank into Ella's very soul. Shadows lashed out around her, caressing her skin like icy fingers. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the cellar, the walls vibrating with a menacing force. Ella stumbled backward as pieces of the ceiling began to crumble, sending debris splintering down around her. "Run!" she screamed, instincts overriding her shock. She darted toward an exit at the opposite end, barely avoiding the jagged rocks that crashed to the ground. Shadows lashed out, snapping at her heels, making every step fraught with peril. She lunged through an opening barely wide enough for her to squeeze through, gasping for air. Emerging into a narrow tunnel swallowed by darkness, Ella felt disoriented. The tunnel twisted around her like a serpent, squeezing tightly, the moist air pressuring against her skin. She pressed forward, driven by fear, Lily's name pulsing in her mind like a mantra. "Mommy!" cried a faint voice echoing deeper within the tunnel. Her heart soared momentarily before recognizing the underlying scream of a terrified child. "Lily!" Ella pressed on, but the shadows whispered, wrapping tendrils of dread around her, urging her back. "Turn back," the chilling voice from the girl echoed again. "You can't save her." "No!" Ella shouted, shaking her head as if to dislodge the rising panic. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, propelling her forward into the unknown. The walls of the tunnel glimmered momentarily with a flickering light, a small hope. Could it be? Ella quickened her pace, reaching for that fragile glimmer. But as she stumbled closer, the cries faded into malevolent laughter, merging with the shadows. "Join us, Ella," the voices called. "Stay with us forever." The darkness loomed larger, stretching across the corridor like a monstrous creature. With a final cry of defiance, Ella lunged for the light, determined to grasp whatever shred of hope was left before the darkness swallowed her whole. But what she found on the other side would test her will and her sanity like never before. What truth awaited her in the flickering light? Would it lead her to Lily or to a nightmare deeper than she ever imagined? The light enveloped Ella as she fell through the jagged opening, tumbling onto hard ground. Pain shot through her knee, but she pushed it aside, urgency fueling her movements. "Looks like the end of the tunnel," she thought, blinking against the brightness. But when her eyes adjusted, dread settled in her chest. The eerie glimmer revealed an expansive chamber, walls etched with strange symbols glowing faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. The air was still and thick, tasting of damp earth and stale fear. Shadows slithered at the edges, playing tricks on her mind. "Lily?" she called, her voice trembling, both mingling hope and fear. The chamber echoed her question, returning her voice distorted, as if the very stones were mocking her. Just ahead, a figure was hunched. Elation danced in her heart. Was it Lily? The figure turned, and for a moment, she felt paralyzed. The child stood before her, but it wasn't the sweet face of her daughter. Instead, hollow cheeks and sunken eyes stared back, almost too familiar to reject. This was not her Lily. "Mommy," it whispered, an unearthly discomfort threading through its tone, stretching the syllables. "Stay back." Ella stumbled back, heart racing like a wild animal, the chill of the cell enveloping her. The child's fingers extended, covered in a strange, dark substance that dripped onto the stone floor, hissing as it pooled. The whispers returned, relentless, filling her mind with despair. Join us," they chanted, an unforgiving chorus woven within the shadows. "Get away from her." Ella screamed, the choice between fight or flight urging her body into action. But the walls felt like they were closing in, slamming her resolve like a door in the dark. The figure of the child shifted, the features distorting into a grotesque version of innocence, eyes swirling with a malevolent light. "You can't leave, Mommy," it said, each word dragging with it an icy dread. "You belong with us. We are shadows, and you'll love the darkness." Something flickered in Ella's mind. Lily's laughter had always been a light, a shield against the shadows creeping into their lives. But with every step forward, this darkness only promised despair. "Leave me alone." Ella backed into the opposite wall, the symbols now pulsing in morbid rhythm, as if alive, feeding off her fear. The child's laughter twisted into shrill sound, echoing against the stone, warping with the shadows. Why can't you understand? We're waiting for you. The child lunged towards her, and seconds stretched into eternity. Ella gasped, heart pounding, adrenaline surging as she spun around toward the far side of the chamber. A doorway loomed, its edges shimmering faintly, pulling her with a siren's call. "Mommy!" Echoed anew, and this time, it was unmistakably Lily's voice. The urgency washed over Ella like a wave, powerful and full of hope. She sprinted past the writhing shadows, hands clawing at her ankles, but she pushed on, determined to reach that sound, to reach her daughter. The doorway towered above, glowing brighter with every step. As she surged forward, she felt tendrils of darkness grasping, clinging, clawing, trying to reclaim her. With a desperate scream, Ella dove through the opening just as the shadows converged behind her, consumed with fury. The moment she crossed the threshold, the world shifted. On the other side, a blinding light washed over her, searing through the veil of shadows. Gasping, Ella rolled onto solid ground, her heart racing, but the sound of her daughter's voice was gone. Where was she? What's happening? Unease crept into her mind, crawling like insects beneath her skin. Suddenly, a soft hiss broke the stillness, and Ella turned slowly. The chamber, aliased by the fading light from the doorway, now revealed yet another figure. It was Lily, but her eyes glinted with the same darkness that had enveloped the first child. "Stay with me, Mommy," and then the light flickered. What new horror awaited her now that she crossed the threshold? Would she save Lily or lose herself in the all-consuming darkness? Ella's breath caught in her throat as the light surrounding Lily began to wane. The innocence she longed to see was overshadowed by a chilling aura that wrapped itself around her daughter. The weight of dread settled heavily on her chest, and a deep, gnawing fear took root in her mind. "Lily?" Her voice was frail, barely a whisper as she stepped closer, her hands trembling. "Mommy, please." The child's voice, though familiar, had morphed into something hauntingly melodic, tempting. "You have to come with me." Illusions danced along the edges of Ella's consciousness, as the chamber's symbols pulsated with an almost enticing glow. They took on nightmarish forms, summoning memories of despair, Lily's last moments before they had been separated, the sirens, the initial panic that had consumed her. "Where are we?" Ella demanded, the shadows stretching ominously around her. "Home, Mommy," Lily replied, a twisted smile on her once innocent face. "You've finally come home." The whispers grew louder, echoing off the chamber walls. Join us," Ella shook her head, each denial making her feel weaker, as if the very air were laced with poison. "You're not my Lily. My daughter would never." "Every moment you hesitate, you drift further from me," the distorted form interrupted, dark eyes glimmering with an almost insatiable hunger. "They need you, Mommy. We need you." Something deep within Ella twisted painfully. That voice, that yearning, it had to be real. She could not lose Lily again, she would not allow it. But even as she fought against the encroaching despair, the shadows seemed to answer her resolve with a chilling laughter that rattled her bones. "Mommy," the fiendish child beckoned, taking a step towards her, the ground trembling beneath their weight. With each step, the shadows churned, coiling like serpents, clawing at Ella's resolve. "Stay back." She held her hands up as if to ward off the advancing darkness, but the symbols on the walls glowed brighter, feeding off her fear and prodding her to submit. "Why can't you see? They are waiting, we're waiting." The distorted innocence cracked into a malevolent grin, and in that moment, Ella saw it, the truth. Within Lily's eyes, reflections of countless lost souls flickered, eyes filled with pain, longing, and betrayal. This wasn't her child, it was a parasite, ravenous and persistent. "Leave her," she breathed, the words almost choked in her throat. Suddenly, she felt a pull from behind her. A gust of cold air beckoned her away from Lily, illuminating another doorway that trembled with light. Shadows screamed, retreating at its brightness, but the darkness of her daughter still lurked in the corner of her vision, desperate and fierce. Mommy, don't go. That sweet voice now twisted with ferocity clawed at Ella's resolve. The fear tightened in her chest, constricting with urgency. She turned, racing towards the new opening, every instinct screaming to abandon the nightmare behind her. But just before she crossed the threshold, Lily's voice pierced through, filled with a raw agony that tore at Ella's heart. Mommy, don't leave me. I'm still here. Ella faltered. The conflict was brutal. She wanted to run but the grip of maternal instinct rooted her in place. Just as the shadows surged forward, a sudden clarity took hold. Her true Lily was lost in that darkness, and this demon could not take her spirit. With a defiant scream, Ella leapt through the doorway fiercely, slamming into a cold expanse of emptiness that swallowed her whole. Behind her, the shadows wailed, furious at their lost prize. As the world around her shifted again, Ella faced an unsettling silence. She braced herself for something new when distant echoes rattled through the dark, beckoning her to listen. Mommy? Where are you? Ella's heart clenched. Was that still her Lily? The pull was insatiable, and the darkness lunged once more. Was she already too far gone? Stay with us echoed chillingly, but now it was not just Lily's voice, it was a haunting choir of whispers, pulling her deeper into the abyss. What choice did she have? Would the truth save her or lead her further into the darkness? Ella stood in the suffocating dark, panic gripping her heart like a vice. The echoes of her daughter's voice mingled with the sinister whispers around her, creating a cacophony that threatened to shatter her. Mommy? Where are you? The desperation in that tiny voice sent tremors through her. It felt real, genuine, yet, lurking beneath was the malevolent swirl of shadows, eager to ensnare her. She could feel the darkness tightening. Memories of Lily flooded back, the muffled giggles, the bright smile, the comforting warmth of her presence. I'm coming, sweetheart. She cried out, launching herself toward the faint outline of light ahead. Each step felt like a battle against chains binding her to the despairful whispers surrounding her. Don't leave, Mommy. I need you. The words were a spectral siren song, full of twinges of agony. But Ella forced her mind to focus. The light shimmered like hope, a beacon cutting through the thick veil of shadows, and she couldn't let her fear dictate her actions any longer. With every ounce of strength, she pushed forward. I love you, Lily. The declaration echoed back with reverberating urgency. The shadows shrieked and clawed at her like wild beasts, biting at her ankles, threatening to pull her under. You will never escape. They hissed, drowning her spirit in icy dread, but Ella was resolute. Nothing would snatch her away from her daughter again. I'm coming. She screamed defiantly, crashing through the threshold of light in one final surge of energy. And then the world erupted in brightness, purging the shadows and the dark cries. Ella staggered forward into an open space, gasping in the warm light that embraced her like an old friend. The suffocating weight was gone, replaced with a heaviness of clarity. The shadows fizzled out, their wicked whispers fading into silence. Barely able to breathe, Ella blinked, adjusting to this new reality. There, standing in the radiant light, was Lily. The sight took her breath away. The pure joy and innocence radiating from her daughter seemed like a dream. Mommy! Lily shouted, rushing straight into Ella's arms, her embrace filled with warmth and love. Ella broke down, the tears flowing freely now, the release of terror and sorrow. I thought I lost you. She sobbed, wrapping her arms around Lily, clutching the little girl as if to tether them to this reality. I was scared. Lily admitted, her voice muffled against Ella's shoulder. The shadows, they were trying to take me. The memories washed over Ella like waves, the moments from the house, the whispers, the lost children they sought to claim. But you're safe now, baby. They can't hurt you. They won't hurt us again. Lily pulled back, her eyes wide. What about the house? With a heavy heart, Ella glanced back at the retreating shadows, where the echoes had come from. The house is a darkness we'll never return to. We must break free of its hold, Lily. Together, they turned away from the flickering shadows that seemed to dissolve alongside the remnants of pain. Every step further from the darkness left a burden behind, and with each movement towards the blossoming future, hope thrummed in their hearts, its rhythm alive, vibrant, undying. As they walked into the horizon lit by a golden glow, Ella knew they had not just escaped the horrors of the past, but also vowed to never let fear dictate their lives again. What mattered was the present, the love shared between them, and reclaiming their story, and though nightmares could come calling again, they would face them together, united in love and light. Now, dear friends, this is the moment to act. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will make your heart race and your soul soar. Smash the like button to feed the algorithm, your support means the world to us. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of standing together. Let's keep the light shining bright.